This computer. Yay, I'm recording. Okay, sounds and silences, which I'm recording after Caesar and me, which I did last week. Just keeping things nicely out of order. Um,
Dang it. I was gonna say I was wondering why you didn't hit me up about that because I was written down for Caesar and me. I was notched down for that episode. So I was expecting this was going to be a double taping, but when you didn't say anything, I was like, maybe he already recorded I Am the Night Color Me Black.
that one
I
was,
didn't
yeah,
I
that one
didn't
I
know
did
you
with.
just flat out forgot about me, Matthew.
That one was requested by John Arminio, which yeah. So he did that one 2 weeks ago, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I thought I requested that one like a long time ago.
oh, sorry about that. I could have a
But
look at some
he probably did better with it than I could. So
stuff.
but I will ask if I know we're getting down to the nitty-gritty.
hmm
If there is one more available, can I claim any ones? Or are they all
I think there's going to be one of the last couple is
okay?
probably up for grabs, so I can put you down for one of those. Because what's coming
Okay.
up? Jeopardy Room. I have. I think Mike's coming in for that next week. Stopover a Quiet Town. If Ashley is finished with she was on a few weeks ago, and she'll do that if Daredevil is finished, basically, because she's doing that. The Encounter, John, Mr. Garrity and the Graves. I don't remember. I might have just stuck Luke's name by it or
I
something.
think I tried to call that one a long time ago, and you said you
Okay,
had somebody.
Okay, I might have had a request for that. The Brain Center at Whipple's was Brian. And then I think the last three I don't have names attached. So I think those might all be up for grabs if I
Okay.
remember correctly. But
Okay.
I will make sure to put you down for one of those. Do you have a preference? Come Wonder with Me, The Fear and the Bewitching Pool.
The fear.
Okay. I might have your name down already for that, to be
Yeah.
honest. So
So yeah,
Mm,
I'm not a big fan of Bewitching Pool. So yeah, the other two, whichever one you want to slot me in, but preferably the fear.
Okay. Yeah, Bewitching Pool, I guess, is just like it was the last, like aired episode. Not the last produced, apparently, but the
I
last
don't want to
aired.
spoil it when it makes it bad. If you've never seen it before, I'll wait you let you
I
take that
feel
all in.
I'm not sure if I've seen it or not because I definitely like know images from it, but that doesn't necessarily mean I watched it?
Yeah.
It might have just been like I because it's the last episode I've seen like, things. Do you have the opening narration anywhere within eyesight? I can put it in the chat if you'd like.
I didn't like it. It was a long one.
It is a long one.
I will do my best.
Okay.
It's actually a medium sized
Yeah.
one, but
You've got it ready there, right?
yeah.
Okay, because yeah, it seems nicer to ask like before I start the proper show.
I figured too, if I don't forget, since it's kind of fitting for this episode, can I also do the closing narration?
Yeah, do you want to
Since
do
it
it
kind
all? Do you want to do it all together, or do you want to do the closing like later?
just like I said, if I don't forget, so hopefully I want to do it towards the end. Yeah, I don't want to do it back to back because I'd do the opening, and then we'll talk about the episode, and then do the end.
Okay, I'll try and put a mental pin that when we go to the
Okay,
questions, I'll
if we
have
do
you do
forget,
the
no
closing.
big
But
deal.
yeah, I'll try
Yeah.
and put a mental pin for you to do it just before we get into the closing questions. So that way, and maybe you'll remember too if you
Because
have
I
that.
feel it's fitting. It explains what happens at the end.
Oh yeah, sure. No. Sometimes you need the closing. What was it? A spur of the moment where it was like super kind of parallel, so it's like it would be weird not to do the closing. Or Owl Creek, where the
Yeah.
opening is just Rod describing what it is, so the closing is more like the typical Twilight Zone thing.
And one thing before we get into the whole before we deep dive into all this, on Patreon, it's I know we don't got a lot of members on there, so it might not be that big a deal, but I don't know if you might have did the same mistake somewhere else. When you were doing your films and filth
Uh-huh.
and you posted all that jazz, it was actually Daddy Day Camp.
That I don't remember. I thought I had lost that episode for a bit. I'll go replace that. Because
Yeah.
um yeah, I thought I lost that episode because when I had to do that day camp, I couldn't find it. And for whatever reason, both of them were in folders called All That Jazz. I think maybe we had to alter the schedule or something, but I can go fix that. Yeah. Because
Okay.
I don't, yeah, tell me if that happens because I don't go listening usually. So,
Okay.
oh yeah, 5520. I think the actual All That Jazz episode is about the same podcast. Sorry, I'm just kind of checking where I
It
have
was actually a delight surprise because
it.
I didn't know what all that jazz was, and I'm like, well, I've seen Daddy Daycare. What the hell is Daddy Day Camp? I feel like I kind of know this, and then I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. It was a fun episode. You guys talking?
Yeah, Andrew was on the list for that one, but he actually didn't understand. No, it's Daddy Day Camp, not
Yeah.
Care. So it was he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I haven't actually watched that movie." And I was like, "Yeah, you probably don't want to see that. Even you might not be in for this one." So,
Um,
uh,
yeah.
Daddy
Felt like
Day.
I was gonna
Okay,
say
it looks
something. I
like
was like, yeah.
it looks like I at some point I renamed the folder, so I think I do have all that jazz not deleted yet.
Okay.
What didn't I just bring it back? Oh, it's at the bottom. That's why. But that is, let's look at the audio length. 55. Then the it might be like one. The other confusing thing is I think maybe the two episodes are almost the same length, which also would have thrown me off.
Mm.
Let's look at Day Camp. Daddy Daycare. Oh, I wrote it as Daddy Daycare. I didn't even write it as camp. Oh yeah, they're both 55 minutes. That's where I really got thrown off.
Oh, that's where, yeah, I got thrown off.
Okay, anyway, I'll fix that after this recording. Okay, I guess we will do this then. Give me a 5 second gap just to cite, and then we will start. Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast, where we row our boat through all of the episodes of The Twilight Zone and beyond. This is Matt here as always, coming back for more at Sean. How you doing?
It's a fair weather day here today.
Fair weather day.
Nice,
Okay.
nice spring day.
We're having confusing weather. We were covered in snow 5 days ago, and then yesterday it was like kind of toasty. So who knows what's going on? I guess they call that spring, you know?
Yeah, it was weird. It snowed like 8, 9 days ago, and today was 80.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if we got up to 80, but yeah, we've had a similar thing going on. I don't even know what it's out today. I'll get out after this recording, but I podcast in morning, so I don't really know what it's like yet. I turned my heater on. I still did that. But yeah, today it's sounds and silences. I guess there's more sound and silence in this episode. This is a request from you. I don't know if it's just like an availability thing or if you've got a particular thing with this episode.
I noticed a pattern, like certain episodes, certain episodes that get a little not so much love. Like I was on for the jungle, I was on for Cavendier's Coming, and this one,
I'd put
they hold
Agnes with
us,
love in that bin probably as
yeah,
well.
yeah, for Magnus with Love, and I for some reason those episodes where they alienate a lot of people, I find them not as bad. Like this episode, I was looking today. It's rated the second worst episode in the entire history of the Twilight Zone of the original run.
Yeah,
And
that caught my eye. I was kind of, maybe I liked this episode more because I was coming in with such trepidation, basically expecting absolute garbage. And I mean, yeah, it's far from the best episode, but I don't know if it's the second worst.
yeah, no, it's definitely, I don't think it's definitely not the second worst.
Like, and this is one where I've complained on here about things like the Bard, where they have the Mickey Mousing music that I don't like. Which this one I think kind of gets around that by making it just insane sound design. You know, like that's fun. Like do it with insane sound design. I'm all for that. So, but I could see where that might irritate people in a similar manner if they're
And
not.
normally that would irritate me, but for some reason in this episode it doesn't. And then I got that soft spot when I hear the Popeye, theme kind of the little bit of the Popeye theme they play in it right
Yep,
after
yep.
he has a little breakup
Some
with
sea
his wife.
shanties, always good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me go ahead and do a bit of trivia for this episode. The original air date was April 3rd, 1964. Script is a Serling. Richard Donner directed. His hit rate with movies was pretty strong. Superman, The Goonies, Maverick. We'll discuss his hit rate with Twilight Zone episodes, I guess, today. John McGiver gave a performance as Roswell G. Flemington, excuse me, I wrote it wrong. Flemington. He had a long running career on screen. You'll find him in Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Manchurian Candidate, and as American Express's spokesperson in the 1970s. We've previously seen him here on The Bard. Mrs. Lydia Flemington was Peggy Singleton. She was the voice of Jane Jetson in The Jetsons and starred as Blondie in a 28 film long series from 1938 to 1950. She was also a major proponent of advocating women's rights in the entertainment industry during the 1960s, so about the time of this episode. Conklin was played by William Benedict. He was Whitey in the Bowery Boys, and also appeared in Ed Wood's Bride of the Monster and in The Sting. Francis DeSales was the Doctor. He was a character actor with many credits, including The Big Story and The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. Have you ever watched any Ozzie and Harriet?
Never.
I haven't either. I feel like that's a show that no one like under the age of, I don't know,
Like, I
55
know
has
I've heard
watched.
of it. Like, I know people say that, but I've just never watched it.
I think it's a cultural reference, and intrinsic in the reference is you won't like this, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's, so squeaky clean, like you can't actually enjoy it. So nobody under the age of 55 has ever watched it, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe, hey, if there's a big Ozzy and Harriet fan out there, like a teenage Ozzy and Harriet fan that also listens to random Twilight Zone podcast, drop us a note. Um, Michael Fox, no J in there, was the psychiatrist. We've previously seen him in Nightmare as a Child and Mr. Dingle the Strong. He was not a doctor, but he played one on television. And there's actually a thing with him. I'm going to go directly to Wiki to read this, which is the Dr. Fox effect. And this is from Wiki now. Fox also made an important contribution to the scholarly field of education as the actor who played Dr. Myron L. Fox in a study that would give rise to the Dr. Fox effect, and also participated in the generation of additional materials in at least one follow-up study. In the initial demonstration of this effect, Fox delivered an engaging and expressive lecture that contained no meaningful content, and yet the audience rated Fox just as highly as a genuine professor's lecture. The Fox effect has been often cited as a critique of the validity of student evaluations of teaching. So I just thought that was interesting. If you look like a doctor and sound like a doctor and you're just full of BS, it doesn't matter. People will still dig what you're saying. Uh, Sean, if you could go ahead and give us that massive opening narration.
All right. This is Roswell G. Flemington. 220 pounds of gristle, lung tissue, and sound decibels. He is, as you perceived, a noisy man, one of a breed who substitutes volume for substance, sound for significance, and shouting to cover up the readily apparent phenomenon that he is nothing more than an overweight, aging, perennial Sea Scout whose noise making is in an inverse ratio to his competence and to his character. But soon our would-be admiral of the fleet will embark on another voyage. This is an uncharted and twisting stream that heads for a distant port called the Twilight Zone.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. This character actually, I think he sits in your mind and becomes more amusing like after you've watched the episode. Like you're like, wait a minute, was he really doing that? Was he really just shouting the whole time? And yes, he was, which is that is funny. That's legit funny, which comedy Twilight Zones don't always manage.
You could play a drinking game with this episode too. I don't know if you kept track of this reference, but in a manner of speaking, how many times they said that in this episode?
Well, I was distracted by how many times they say mind over matter because that's a different episode of the Twilight Zone.
And I had a thought about that. I was like, could they call this episode? Should have they have called this episode "Mind Over Matter" or something like that? I know we had the mind and the matter, but no, I think it's perfect sounds and silences. I think that's a perfect title.
Well, I guess I was being smutty because I wrote down quotes during which these would make good episode titles. What we have, sloppy seamanship. That'd be a good title. Um, what was the other one? Soul of a Seaman. Yeah, I like that. So, the Soul of a
Shouting,
Seaman. That would be my title for this.
the shouting seaman.
Yeah, or just loud voices. Do a bit of Anchorman there, you know. Now,
Yeah,
here was where my willing suspension of disbelief got a little bit weird. And maybe this is a real thing and I just never knew about it. But hey, I own a lot of records. My room's filled with media. And come on, is there really a record with the sounds of bombing Okinawa? That doesn't sound right.
again, we're having the same thoughts because when I was watching that episode again, it's kind of like a refresher yesterday. I was like, where did he go to buy this?
Now I
Especially
will.
the one he tries to play towards the end about the stacking barrels, the crackling barrels, or whatever, in the steam whistle and all this other stuff he's listing off. And I'm like, geez.
Right. But now to just argue against myself, when I was in university, I was a DJ at the station, and sometimes I do the late night shifts. I get annoying calls. I remember a few times getting enough annoying phone calls that I just put on for an hour. It was an hour long CD of pachinko machines, the Japanese slot machines.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just put that on the air for like a while. It was like I don't maybe I didn't play maybe I did play the whole CD. I don't remember, but yeah, it was a CD of just pachinko noises. Um I'm also careful pronouncing that pachinko. I put a lot of stress on the first sound because chin chin is male genitalia in Japan. So years ago, my wife, some of her university friends, and my buddy Scott, who's been on this podcast before, but we went to do karaoke and he kept talking about pachinko and they kept hearing him basically like saying dirty stuff when he was just talking about pachinko machines, which isn't that, but they were like
Mm.
horrified. They thought he was just like a very dirty man. So he came across like the guy in this episode, I guess.
Man, this guy, I mean, he had talking down the way he would talk. And like, one of my, this is one, not just one line, it's a couple lines I love in this episode. But when he's having an argument with his wife of 20 years, which, by the way, this is a 20-year marriage. How this came off, do you believe this was a 20-year marriage? Or are we
They
just
don't
going, yeah, sure, okay.
they don't spend a lot of time together, probably.
But anyways, when they were fighting, he has this memorable quote here talking about his mother, who he kind of has a resentful attitudes towards growing up with her. He says, and when I'd come home from school, she would make me brownies. Oh, sorry. I skipped a little bit. Let me start over there.
I want
And
brownies.
when I and when I would come home from school, she would make me walk tiptoe and whisper, 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 whisper. In our house, we never had any cookies. All we had were fudge brownies because they made less noise when you chewed them. She would say, eat your brownies, run upstairs and change, but keep quiet. And I tell you, madam, I have had quite enough of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, I can't have cookies. I have brownies. I don't see the problem there. I like, what is it, the cosmic brownies with the little colored things, the M&Ms on them. Those are good. I don't know if I could eat most American sweets though, because in Japan things aren't as insanely sweet. So if I do, when people go to the States and bring back like a souvenir or something, sometimes like, oh my God, and all my teeth start like, hurting eating that stuff.
I like the Japanese variations of Kit Kats. I got
Oh,
this.
man, you don't know how deep that rabbit hole goes.
I got this shop down the street from me that sells them. They sell them kind of expensive, but
They're expensive
worth
in
it.
Japan because they're meant to be bought as like something, you go take a trip to another town, you get weird Kit Kats, you go home and you give your coworkers the weird Kit Kat. So that's why they're expensive. Like you
Yeah.
don't buy them for yourself. Or at least Japanese typically would not buy it for themselves. Um, so yeah, anyway, yeah, brownies, cookies. I mean, yes, mom might have been weird, but she, I don't know. I grew up in a house though where we played in bands, so my living room got very loud. I think the neighbors were still complaining about the noise 10 years after I quit doing that.
This does seem like a guy that would have mother issues and then has to act out as an adult, holding all of this as a child, and now he's got to like you said, he had to be quiet and tiptoe as a kid and whisper, and now he's being this obnoxious blowhard.
I'm
But
thinking, what of my, how many of my idiosyncrasies, I can't say the word, idiosyncronicities have become obsessions? And I'm looking around like, okay, you can't go record shopping anymore very easily. So I just have I mean, vinyl you can, but it's just looking around, I have a room filled with tons of CDs and movies, about a dozen guitars. I have my own obsessions. They just don't come across as weird, I guess. I don't know. I mean, this guy just airs them out for the world. He's tried to turn his office into like a nautical themed office.
do you have a CD that is recorded of World War II battleships?
I'm trying to think of what is like the most bizarre CD I have sitting around. I don't have that, of course. So, what do I have that's why I guess the pachinko noises came to mind because that's kind of the weirdest CD I've come across in the wild, you know?
Yeah.
Um, let's
Just
see.
some
What
other memorable things that he does say, because I just love the way the guy talks in here. But in the beginning of the episode, he's telling one of his workers, idle hands make for an unprotected poop deck.
Now, at the beginning, he's playing his sounds of the sea, and I was about to type. I don't think he's really at sea, so I guess they were telegraphing it well. You know, I like the tall ship stuff. You know, my house
Oh, but
growing up had a bunch of like models of tall ships.
boy, did he try to make his office look seaworthy, though.
Yeah, it kind of made me think. We have a lot of Trekkies coming through here, and I was thinking a little bit of like Hollow Addictions with Lieutenant Barclay on the Next Generation gets stuck in a holodeck, and this is kind of the lo-fi version of that, I guess. Of
Mhm.
course, on Star Trek, Barclay's character is Wallflower, where this guy is Blunderbuss, like bellowing dude. So very different characters, but uh loud voices. I'm just having a look through my notes here on random observations I have. Again, the
And but
sound design is a bit much, but you start to get used to it. Uh
yeah, because I had you in mind when I thought about all the noises, especially when the clock or his little, is it a stopwatch that breaks or something like that, and it makes all those noises. It's after all the sink, it's after the sink water, after the shower, and then something else like breaks and starts making like boing, ding, dong, ding, dong, like
Yeah,
all
but
these like
somehow not
noises.
calling it music makes it acceptable a little more. And it
Hmm.
does turn out like yes, these noises are driving him insane. I mean, I guess he's already insane, but it's driving him double insane, you know?
Yeah.
Um I don't know what are the sounds I cannot deal with. Well, I got a haircut yesterday and here's a weird one. Like when there's a buzzing near my left ear, my lower left back will twitch. So when I get a haircut, I have to hold onto the chair when the guy uses the electric razor on my left ear.
Yeah, I think I remember. I think you've brought that
Yeah,
up
yeah,
before
yeah.
in the
So no, I
Nicole Disney.
just did that
That
yesterday. So when my father-in-law is using his electric razor, I kind of like discreetly leave the room most of the time. I don't think he knows it drives me insane. I don't like those squeaky shoes that kids have. You know what I'm talking about? Little kids sometimes have those
yeah,
shoes that squeak. I don't like those. Never bought those for my daughter.
or even sometimes rain boots can be squeaky.
That's yeah, yeah, but that's different when your own shoes are just wet and squeaking. It's like that's annoying, but it's not
Yeah.
intentional because the kid shoes is like here's intentional shoes to annoy everyone within a 30-foot radius, you know? Now
I
I'm
can
sounding like
relate
this
with
guy.
I can relate with him hearing the drip. I mean, not to that level that it was dripping, but if you've ever had a leak in your house and you've had to put a bucket down to collect the water, you hear the drip, 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 and you just have trouble going to sleep, and you're like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, yeah, I don't think I've encountered that recently. Living on the second floor with no there's no water on the second floor, so that probably helps. But
I just had a water heater leak a couple months ago, or yeah, a couple months. It was like 2 months ago.
yeah. Well,
So yeah,
for a few
that
years
was
there
fun.
was a family of birds that would set up shop every spring, like right outside our dining room door, and they come back. It was like 3 or 4 years they kept coming back in there, just super loud. So, and why did we get rid of the nest? Maybe because they were loud and annoying. I don't remember, but yeah, they kept coming back to that exact spot. So, bird knowledge, there are. It's interesting. There's ways animals are super intelligent that we are not. So, that being one of them.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I don't know so you got the dripping, I got the squeaky shoes. I've been teaching kids so long, just allowed kids like don't get me as much as they used to. So, because I remember first
Oh,
going to Japan when my nephews were still young and they were, being boys, and at that time I wasn't teaching kids. I remember just looking at why are they so loud, you know? I've
and
gotten
they had
over
the
that though.
they had the clipping of the nails with the doctor. I was like,
Yeah, that was
had to
weird
make sure you heard
behavior
that.
though. It's that seemed like he's like if you're a doctor and you're doing that, aren't you kind of provoking your patient a bit? Like that seemed yeah.
Yeah, what doctor ever sits there and just clips his nails like that?
That I mean that's rude, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, who's more sane than this guy? Okay.
I felt
Uh,
like I have seen that doctor in another Twilight Zone episode, but I tried to look him up on Wikipedia. I didn't look him up on IMDb or nothing else, but I looked him up on Wikipedia, and all I could find was his movie history. I
you're talking
couldn't
about
find his.
the doctor, not the psychiatrist, because we get a
Yeah,
doctor
what
and
was his name?
psychiatrist.
Let me see his
Francis
name.
DeSales is
Yes,
the
yes.
actor, and then and there is no character name. He's just the doctor, you know, just like on Star Trek Voyager, keeping it with Star Trek references. Oh yeah, we get a Twilight Zone window, but he doesn't fall out of it, so good for him. That's some season 5 evolution there. But yeah, how did you feel about the end? Well, actually, that goes
Oh,
to my question, so I
uh,
should hold off on that a bit. Maybe that is a good
just a little for a second there. You had a technical issue.
Oh, do I? Okay, hold on, let me pause.
Man, this guy has one hell of a tantrum towards the end of the episode. So let's put this in perspective. So people that don't know, before I explain the tantrum. So at the beginning of the episode, this guy's a blowhard, likes his noises, likes all that stuff. In the middle of the episode, all his loud noises are starting to get to him because he hears them a little too loud and just everything he hears too loudly. Now at the end, he's learned this thing called mind over matter, and he has trouble hearing no matter how hard he plays things. So at the end, when he's trying to play his CDs or his records, I keep calling them CDs. When he's trying to play his
Damn
records,
millennials.
he he has one hell of a temper tantrum. I mean, he breaks 3 bottles, he breaks a record, he breaks a hutch. Like, just my God, man, what's that all about? Just because you were that desperate to make sure you could hear something, so you're just breaking your own stuff.
Well,
Like,
it's kind of like when you have an issue, it's hard. You can't stop picking the scab, right? So,
yeah,
especially something I guess like that, like hearing or whatever. Because I've had a few times where one of my ears like went kind of deaf for a while. I went to the doctor. I got like a month of disgusting tasting medicine to help reverse that. So yeah, that when he was to the doctor, I guess I started just having that taste in my mouth of the horrible flavor of the medicine that I needed for a hearing issue once. But no, at the end, I'm just like he goes straight crack up nuts. I think this guy like takes our dumber impulses and just takes them to an extreme and acts out his life that way, which is what makes him amusing. You know, he's insufferable, but he's fun to watch and listen
yeah.
to.
And when he learned the mind over matter thing to tune out his wife, I thought, okay, that worked. The first time I saw this episode, which was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, because I was very late to discovering the Twilight Zone. Um, but yeah, the first time I saw the episode, I did not expect, like, I expected, everything to go with the wife, but I did not expect him to just lose hearing of everything else, like the outside world around him.
And that's what I mean. That makes the sound design kind of fun. I mean, it's in the title, so I was expecting silences at some point, right?
I was thinking about that too. I was like, I should have, you should think better because you got the sounds and you got the silences.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
like you just said, you got the title there. So you should expect silences.
Well, this guy, I mean, there's Buddhism, there's a middle path, which this guy's the opposite of that. He's like way out on both opposites and becomes insane, you know?
Yeah. And I'm not deep into the arts of mind over matter. I know there's people that can get kicked in the groin and they got mind over matter.
Yeah, I don't want to
That's as
mind
much
over matter that. Well, I'm not
that's as much
ticklish anymore.
nonsense.
I'm no
You're
longer
not ticklish
ticklish.
anymore.
No, yeah, and I teach kids. They try sometimes, right? And I've just turned off that. You could turn off a shiver. If it's cold, you can actually pretty much
Yeah.
just like stop shivering. I mean, there's things like that because you don't really think about that until you're just like, hey, I can do that. I can just not be
Man,
tickled.
I wish I wasn't ticklish anymore. I'm still ticklish like a little kid.
Oh, okay, well, you just don't.
Especially in my feet when I get my bi-monthly feet pampering session and they do the all the fancying up on my feet and whatever the words are. But yeah, they get me a little ticklish. And I
Um,
always tell them, I'm sorry, I'm really ticklish.
one more thought I have is both. I keep talking about sound design because both this and I mean, Owl Creek is not a production by the Twilight Zone, but it was aired, so whatever. But the sound design on both, I was like, is so fascinating, and the Owl Creek being evocative and Lynchian because David Lynch liked that stuff, right? Whereas this one is just wacky and weird. But I was like, oh, this is binaural. That's kind of like impressive. I'm listening on headphones. It's in mono, and I'm like, they did a really good job on that. I just want to throw out one more prop to that, I guess.
Going back to what you said about Owl Creek for an episode that doesn't have a lot of dialogue, I just love the sounds of that episode. Like the flowing water and the nature and the birds and just
Yeah, I
everything
think
is
that's
so
kind of the
beautiful.
main, that's kind of the big thing about that episode, I think, is that it's just a major thing in sound design. And this is a lot more ham-fisted with it, of course, but the effort is being made, which is nice. Although I guess it's not an influence thing because they bought Owl Creek like as the last episode. They just didn't air it as the last because that would have been like especially weird. You air your last episode and something else, you know?
Yeah. I was going to mention, I got people that like to blast their stuff like Roswell over here, Roswell G. Flemington, but it's rap music usually. So,
Okay, no, what we had now in Japan this generally doesn't happen. The noise pollution is political trucks, which will just drive around town during campaign season, like on loudspeakers. You're kind of like what the Blues Brothers are doing almost in the Blues Brothers movies. And that's loud and annoying, but otherwise in Japan people are like don't make noise, right? Like there's been a few people when people in this my
man.
cul-de-sac have died, and my wife's like, "Don't play guitar for a month because they're mourning." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of annoying, but whatever."
Yeah, it's so different when you watch Japanese wrestling as opposed to American wrestling. The crowds are way more uh contemporary or like reserved.
Yeah, yeah. I saw 20 years ago. I went to see Brian Wilson play Smile at near Tokyo Station, and I remember hey, trying to get everyone to sing "Row, row, row your boat," and he failed, which was pretty funny actually. Second row, row, row your boat reference in this podcast. What do you know? Where was I going with that though? Noise. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. When I lived in America, my parents' house, people a few doors down would regularly. I just remember. Okay, here's the noise that would keep me awake at night. They'd have parties going on in the morning, and all you'd hear is the bass. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know if that came through on Zoom, but it's just like the kind of
Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine. That's what I mean when people are blasting their rap music and then you get the
this wasn't
boom,
this
boom,
wasn't
boom,
rap.
boom.
Right, right. This wasn't rap. It would be just like Latin dance bass lines without any of the percussion or anything because that wasn't coming through. It's just the bass. So so you just this endless bass line because all the songs have very similar bass lines. It's like yeah, I mean some musical forms just the bass lines are rock and roll or whatever. They don't change much.
Yeah.
Well, you said you wanted to do the closing narration, so you want to throw that at us now?
All right. Let me get this preparated. All right.
Bysom.
Mr. Roswell G. Flemington, that guy who couldn't hear anything anymore. When last heard from Mr. Roswell G. Flemington, he was in a sanitarium pleading with the medical staff to make some noise. They, of course, believe the case to be a rather tragic aberration, a man's mind becoming unhinged. And for this, they'll give him pills, therapy, and rest. Little do they realize that all Mr. Flemington is suffering from is a case of poetic justice. Tonight's tale of sounds and silences in the Twilight Zone.
So, do you think Rod is insinuating that this guy can never recover?
Well, he told them we're getting pills and stuff, but yeah,
That sounds
yeah,
like
I
what they're
think
saying, which, you have a weird
they're gonna
episode.
dope him up, but there ain't no coming back from this.
Yeah, I mean, people can typically bounce back. Again, I've lost hearing in 1 year. It came back, after a month of terrible tasting medicine, that sort of thing.
Well, Rod flat out says this is poetic justice, and he's actually said this quite a few times in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's a
where,
phrase he likes to use, poetic
like, some
justice.
some people clearly are not coming back. Those astronauts that vanished from reality, they're definitely gone. There's no question there.
Yeah.
Mr. Roswell G. Flemington, I mean, except that Rod says he does not because he's suffering from poetic justice. But otherwise, this is a guy who could recover. He's
I mean, they
recoverable.
do say he's getting therapy, but
Yeah, but they're
uh,
like little do they realize, which makes me think like none of it is going to help, right? Rod is as the guy from the
yeah.
Twilight Zone is giving us the the not omnipotent the all-knowing. I guess that's no omnipotence power. Anyway, Rod you assume is the authority on all things Twilight Zone. So if he says this guy is forever shafted, then he's forever shafted, you know?
I'm guessing if this would have been earlier in the world's lifespan, he would have had electric shock therapy, maybe.
Well, he would have
He would
fallen
have
out
been
the
he
window.
would have been a candidate for that.
If this was season 1 or 2, he would have been out that window.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt I actually felt like slightly like oh no when he got near the window. He's gonna fall out, screaming they can't hear anything, which isn't quite the way they did it. So
Yeah, in season 5, I noticed, I think you guys were talking about this too. They substituted the out the window with down the stairs.
yeah, one another reason you said you came to the Twilight Zone late, but this one also no one saw until like what 2016 I think it's no Encounters 2016, but this one was out of syndication until the 80s at least,
Yeah, I was
84.
surprised you didn't bring that up in your trivia. I was because I didn't look that up either, but I knew there was something about this episode, something
Um,
like that. And
Again, I'm reading straight from Wiki, but in 1961, a script titled The Sound of Silence was submitted to the producers and rejected. Following the first screening of this episode, the original author successfully sued Rod Serling for plagiarism and was awarded $3,500 in damages, which sounds kind of small. But since litigation was ongoing at the time of the initial syndication package creation, the episode was withheld until 1984 when it surfaced on a special holiday presentation. I assume that's the same one where we got bits of miniature and color.
yeah, I was going to say that's around the time that miniature came up.
Well, that's when these episodes came back. I guess everything except the encounter came back at that time. So,
Do you think they were doing that because they were prepping people for the '80s Twilight Zone? Do you think that's why they did that? They got
oh yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. Also the movie had come out what a year earlier, and that might have left a bit of a
'83, I think.
yeah, and I mean that rightfully left a bad taste in people's mouths, not even
Dude,
necessarily
you
what's on
like
screen, right? So,
you either
um,
talk to people like about Twilight Zone the movie, you either talk to people that like really hold a resentment for what happened, or you just like people that just really don't know.
it's hard to get past that though, because it is so
Yeah.
horrible, right? And even that segment's not very good. I guess technically the Spielberg segment's the worst because it's kind of the worst thing Spielberg ever made. But he was reeling from the tragedy of that movie, so he wanted out, but couldn't get out basically, and that's why we get his segment. Um, the last two I think are legit good. So I like the George Miller. Is it Nightmare at 50,000 feet for the movie?
Yeah, I'm one of the people that actually prefer the Lithgow performance. I know some people say it's over the top and
It is. He's
stuff like
crazy
that,
from
but
the first shot, It takes
yeah,
Shatner a
but
while
he
to get there.
convinces you,
But
really convinces.
I kind of like both of those equally, to be perfectly honest, because they're different creatures. I like
And
both
that was another
performances.
Richard Donner directed episode, not the movie version,
Right,
but
right. The movie's Miller,
yeah.
so that's kind of an interesting. Yeah, Donner's in the Spielberg fold doing Goonies at that time. So
It was weird. You have like I didn't know this, but Richard Donner actually directed 6 Twilight Zone episodes. I didn't
yeah, he
know
did a
this until
lot.
today.
It's just, I guess the other ones he did, like this one, are not the most like iconic ones. We still have
Yeah.
Come Wander with Me, come the Jeopardy Room, and Come Wander with Me. The Brain Setter Whipples. Those are the three upcoming ones that he did. So actually, he's mostly tail end. Huh, interesting. I guess he was the pinch hitter once they were running out of some steam
The
there.
Jeopardy Room I call is like the chef's kiss. The Twilight Zone, a really good episode.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So that's in my recording life. That's next week. Let's throw out some episodes on this episode. Who goes in or through the Twilight Zone in this one?
Well, I think there's only one man.
It's
I hate to give the obvious answer, but Mr.
this one.
Roswell G.
It's on
Flemington.
the nose. So you watch the episode, it's clear. You listen to Rod
Yeah.
Serling, it's clear. Yeah, it's Roswell
I mean, because his
Flemington,
wife
right?
didn't get affected. She was still talking normal, just as he couldn't hear her,
Roswell
you
G.
know?
Flemington, excuse me. Well, she's been in a Twilight Zone because she's been in this 20-year toxic marriage to a weirdo.
20 years, no kids.
Well, look at him.
Hmm. I want to know like how they became attracted to each other. I need a backstory to this.
Well, 20 years ago, he's a different man. You know, he seemed like a hot young sea salt 20 years ago. You know.
I don't know. That picture of him in his office looks pretty dorky. That
Okay,
one
good.
picture,
Yes, good point. Good point. But
and the one that they're throwing darts at in the office.
but he doesn't look quite as derpy as he does in the episode, right?
Yeah.
So he's got that going for
Who
him.
takes a picture looking like that, by the way, with that look on your face? Like you look like you got surprised.
Oh, he got something like that not long ago. Oh yeah, yeah. The aliens in the town. Maybe it's black leather jackets. Yeah, where there's the giant picture of the sheriff or whatever in the police station. It's like what? Maybe that was just a thing back in the day. The guy in charge puts a giant picture of himself up. I don't know. So I wouldn't. Although we all have our profile pictures now, so maybe we are still guilty of the same mindset.
Yeah.
Does Roswell G. Flemington, man, I cannot remember his, yes, G. Flemington deserve his trip into the Twilight Zone?
Yeah. He totally deserves it.
Yeah, this
I mean,
episode, it's a comedy. When it's a comedy episode, it's like, of course, the guy deserves it.
who are we to question Rod Serling?
Yes.
This is
I,
his poetic justice.
it's poetic justice. That's the one part where I'd be like, maybe he doesn't deserve it. He deserves this episode. Does he deserve to be trapped in a madness and silence for the rest of his life? I don't know about that. He deserves a few months of it, probably. I mean, he could he learn lessons from this? Maybe. I don't know. I guess it's just because he's fun to watch on screen, so you want to give him an out. You don't want him in your kitchen, you know. You don't want to have to interact with him in person, but he's fun to watch in this episode. So
There was this show when I was a kid called 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowell, and it was about this bad kid who got turned into a dog, and he had to do 100 deeds to turn back into a human.
okay, that's kind of
So
like my
maybe if
name is
Rod
Earl, I
Serling was
guess.
like Roswell Flemington, G. Flemington, has got to do 100 good deeds and then he gets his hearing back.
Yeah, my name is Earl. He doesn't turn into a dog, but
Yeah, my name
he
is
gets
Earl. Yeah.
right. We have my
I'm
name is
so mad that
Roswell.
show never got a proper finale.
My name is Roswell. So, so
Well,
I'm
yeah,
I'm
my name is
willing to give
Roswell.
him an out, especially if we get more comedy out of it, you know, or yeah. So it is a weird one where he very much deserves it, but I don't know if he deserves the full extent of the Twilight Zone, which seems to be what he's getting. So
No, nobody deserves to be pilled up, therapied up, and rubber roomed.
yeah,
Nobody deserves that. I mean, no
let's.
matter how much of a blowhard this guy. I mean, it's not like this guy was hitting his wife or anything. At least they weren't doing that on screen. It wasn't like what's in the box.
Yeah, an episode that no one seems to be comfortable with. So yeah, this is just a toxic relationship that's ending way too late, probably. I mean, maybe 10 years earlier, it should never started. I don't know.
And I'm guessing she gets everything in the divorce because he's going to be locked up.
You're right. He got dumped. I think you have to take additional steps to end a marriage, but yeah. In my does that mean I'd be common law married to this Cookie Monster puppet behind me? If I had a similar situation, he's common law married to the boat now, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, let's throw this on the tripometer. 0 is not trippy. 5 is very trippy. I'll make you give a number first.
Tripometer is always personal preference, right?
Of course.
For me,
Yeah.
if this, we're just saying, if I was Roswell G. Flemington, this is my experience in the Twilight Zone, it would be a 3.5 because much like the jungle, if you got noises and stuff just playing around in my head and just freaking me out, and in this case, no noises, which is first he had the noises, then opposite. Either way, I that's not something I want to experience, you know. Like I
Yeah.
don't even think he could hear his own thoughts in his head. So
Well, okay,
I'm
that's an
going
interesting
high. I'm
existential
going
thought. Yeah.
3.5 because I don't want to experience this. But
Okay.
other people might say it's a little lower.
I would go lower. I'm only thinking a 2. Like I didn't think the sound design was that trippy. I was more just like fascinated by the fact that they were doing it. It's two. My 2 is basically for the fact that he has vinyl records of authentic battle noises, which is weird. Um, did they say they're authentic? Yeah, they did, didn't they? So
Yeah. The one especially at the end, um, I should have
and
wrote down everything he listed. He lists like 7 things on the ship that was
he
happening.
goes too
It was
fast.
mainly about the ship exploding. And it
Yeah.
was like, how would you get something this specific?
But yeah, so that the record gets a point. And then when you think about the fact that he runs a nautical themed business office, that's weird, right? So I'm like that for me that's a point on the tripometer.
I figured like this guy should be on this high seas, like since he likes the sea life. But if he
Yeah.
was on the sea, can you play your records on the sea?
And those people are like, he's been doing this for 10 years. We've been working here for 10 years. I'm like, hey, if you, why are you complaining at this point, you know?
Yeah. This office didn't look very like standard like the rest of the Twilight Zone offices. This actually
No,
looked
no,
a
it's
little
nautical
bit
themed,
different for a
right?
change.
It's supposed to feel like the galley or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess we'll start wrapping this one down. Do you have any final thunks you want to thought on this one?
I want to know what the G stands for in Roswell G. Flemington.
Hmm. I sorry, I didn't just have a nice witty rejoinder for that. Um, Glemic, that yeah, joke's not happening. Oh well. Well,
Need
it,
in
it'll be like Harry S. Truman, where his middle name is S. Homer J. Simpson, where it is J. It's G-E-E. That's his middle name. There we go. I
I'm just
finally worked
like
it out.
James B.W. Beavis. We never got to stand out what BW stood for.
Right, right. Well, I think it just sounds good. I doubt I doubt the writers ever thought of this. So, so you can attach whatever you want to it. Uh, I guess we're closing this ship down for today. Lay the anchor out. Time enough podcast. Please do rate and review us where applicable. Hopefully, positive thoughts. We do a lot of podcasting at podcastius.org. Films and Filth covers really highly and really lowly rated films on IMDb. Podcast 1999 is currently doing the Planet of the Apes. Over to Call It Disney, we talk about the weird parts of Disney movies and a few other animated things as well. Um, and all of that same name on Patreon. So there's that. Okay, I'm setting off to sea, just like this guy should.
Hey, wait. Don't we got to plug something?
Oh, go for it.
Isn't it is it podcast?
Oh, yeah, it's podcast on Blue Sky. I haven't even put Blue
Yeah.
Sky on my phone yet, so
And
I
what's
am
the website again? Because I don't visit it often since I'm a Patreon member. What's the
podcastius.org is
Yes. I
all of
thought you
that.
guys were like, I thought that was a joke for a while. Like you guys were just like bullshitting. And then I
Oh.
actually went to the website and I was like, oh, it's a really website. You guys weren't. It wasn't a joke.
No, it wasn't a joke. It's there. I thought podcast was a joke, and apparently I forgot about it. So what can you
Because
do?
Luke's like a jokey guy, so I
Yeah,
figured he
yeah.
was just joking one day.
No, no, you can put it out there.
I don't know what blue sky is though.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit a stop on that.